From downtown Decatur, it's the Faber Files. Hello, I'm your host, Bill Faber. Because democracy demands debate, we present this program of public issues and interests, a program that focuses on the needs and issues of our community. Tonight's program is a special presentation, a recording of an event called Mother Jones Dinner. Mother Jones was a renowned historic organizer who originated from County Cork in Ireland and settled here in Illinois. In fact, her grave is just down the road on Route 55 between Springfield and St. Louis. Mother Jones said, "Pray for the dead, but fight like hell for the living," as she sought to restructure the relationship of workers to the bosses. Tonight is a special keynote presentation at the Mother Jones Dinner, held at University of Illinois in Springfield. The speaker is Bill Fletcher Jr. He's a Harvard graduate, an author, and a man who offers a critique of the relationship of workers to the bosses, of workers to the community, and of the relationship of the community to workers. You will find this a fascinating presentation, a new way to look at this relationship. I hope you keep your mind open and your ears open as you listen to Bill Fletcher Jr. make this historic presentation at the Mother Jones Dinner. Thanks for watching.
Well, Mother Jones was from Ireland, as you know, and came here and organized the working class. And of course, there's a long tradition of people coming over from Ireland and doing all sorts of useful things. And this is a story well known in Ireland, well known in Mexico, not terribly well known in the U.S. for some reason, but it's a true story about a couple hundred Irish draftees who came during the famine and were given a gun and a uniform and told to go kill Mexicans. My name is John Riley. I'll have your ear only a while. I left my dear home in Ireland. It was death, starvation, or exile. When I got to America, it was my duty to go. Enter the army and slog across Texas to join in the war against Mexico. And it was there in the pueblos and hillsides that I saw the mistake I had made. Part of a conquering army with the morals of a bayonet blade. And amidst all these poor dying Catholics, screaming children, the burning stench of it all, myself and 200 Irishmen decided to rise to the call. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. It's a sing-along, by the way, which just means it has a chorus, and if you already know it, you can sing along. If you don't know it, you'll learn it by the time the song's over, in which case it's not really a sing-along. But we marched beneath the green flag of St. Patrick, emblazoned with Erin Goldbra, right with the harp and the shamrock, and Libertad Republica. Just 50 years after Wolfe Tone, 5,000 miles away, the Yanks called us a legion of strangers, and they can talk as they may. But from Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We fought them in Matamoros, where their volunteers were raping the nuns. In Monterrey and Cerro Gordo, we fought on as Ireland's sons. We were the red-headed fighters for freedom amidst these brown-skinned women and men. Side by side, we fought against tyranny, and I dare say we'd do it again. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. mortar blast. Most of us died on that hillside at the service of the Mexican state. So far from our occupied homeland, we were heroes and victims of fate. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. So, back in, a lot of the folks who moved out to Illinois in the late 19th century came out here to farm, and the reason they were able to do that was because of something that was Act of Congress that was passed in 1862, which is called the Homestead Act. And if you grew up in this country, going to school and learning history, you probably learned about the Homestead Act. But what you probably didn't learn was the reason why the Homestead Act was passed was because of the rent strike. Patroons came from Holland to America, became landlords where none had been before. Soon one man owned 500,000 acres on both sides of the Hudson River shore. He invited families to move in and give him 30% of everything they grew every year. This is how they pay the rent. His name was... We're having issues with this thing that was made for an LCD projector. We'll just try lowering the volume and see if that works. His name was Rensselaer. He became one of the richest men on earth. In today's terms, $90 billion is how much he'd be worth. All this for doing nothing but saying all of this was his. I have the power of the state behind me, and I'm in the landlord biz. After 200 years of this and one revolution, one another Rensselaer had another son. And this Rensselaer was greedier than his ancestors dead and past. It was the 1840s, and things were changing fast. It was the straw that broke the back. The bottle was uncorked. They started organizing meetings, the tenant farmers of New York. They found the strength of numbers. They found the power of suggestion. They found each other asking the same question. Who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? They vowed they would stop the rent collection. They vowed they'd bring this madness to an end. And when one blew the tin horn of distress, he soon found he had 1,000 friends with calico skirts, masks upon their faces, on horseback, armed with knives and guns. They chanted and they yelled and they kept their farms and they kept the sheriffs on the run. They asked, who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? militias trying to stop them, but nothing could be done to break their will. And by 1848 the landlords buckled, sold their holdings to the farmers in the hills. Yes, they overthrew the feudal system, but it's replaced now by speculators and banks. And you can still hear the homeless families asking of all the landed gentry in our ranks, who gave you the right to be a landlord, to live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man, while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? Who gave you the right to be a landlord, to live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man, while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? Who gave you the right?
Back there is for sale. I'll make a commercial while I'm doing this. And I thought, you know what, this book about the crisis in organized labor and a new path to social justice, I thought, you know what, this guy really gets it. He understands it. He understands the thing that all of us should know. Then I read his latest book. It's called They're Bankrupting Us and 20 Other Myths About Unions. And I thought, I know this guy gets it. I listened to an interview with Bill Moyers just a few weeks ago when our speaker was on with him, and I thought, man, let's get this guy, bring him to Springfield for the Mother Jones dinner, because he speaks of the spirit of Mother Jones. Somebody that's got some new ideas about how to not only save the labor movement, but how we can grow it. And after spending a couple of hours with Bill this morning, I'm more convinced than ever that when you leave this evening, you're not only going to be energized, but you're going to be committed to a new path to social justice. Sisters and brothers, I give you Bill Fletcher Jr.
Thank you. Good evening. That was a wonderful introduction. It was funny because Jim said when we were in the car, well, how should I introduce you? And I said, I don't like long introductions. And I like something that's personal, and I really appreciate what you said. I want to thank you for inviting me to be with you this evening. And in thinking about what to address, well, let me hold on that for 1 second. When David was singing about the San Patricio Battalion, I was thinking about history, and the San Patricio Battalion is a perfect example of a problem in U.S. history, which is that U.S. history doesn't really know what to do with the San Patricios, in the same way that they don't know what to do with John Brown. In the case of John Brown, how do you explain this crazy white guy that was committed to raising guns to free black folks? It just doesn't really correspond to a myth. And so history has real problems taking him into account. The same with the San Patricios. And when, in listening to the song, I was reminded of this fable from Aesop about the man and the lion. And there was this man and the lion walking through the jungle. And this is a point in history when lions could talk. And so they come across one another. We all know that time. And so they come across one another, and they decided since they're going in the same direction, they would walk together. And so they start chatting, and they get into this debate about who's superior, humans or lions. And they come across a clearing, and there's a statue of Hercules standing on top of a lion, and the man says, that proves it. The lion says, what does that prove? He says, that proves that humans are superior to lions. And the lion says, yes, but if it was the lions that built the statues, it would be a lion on top of Hercules. And I think every time when we look at history, we've always got to ask first the question, who built the statues? Because that will tell you something about what passes as truth. And so I'd encourage people actually to look up the San Patricios. But I'm going to switch gears. In 2009, in order to dramatize the short and long-term impact of climate change, the cabinet of the Maldives, under the direction of their then Prime Minister, held a cabinet meeting. Now, cabinet meetings are held all the time. What made this one unusual is that it was held underwater. And the entire cabinet put on scuba gear, and they held their cabinet meeting underwater. Because, like many other islands on this planet, if things continue going the way they're going, the Maldives and other places will cease to exist. They'll be swamped by water. And the Prime Minister was trying to demonstrate and to shake people out of their tree around the planet to understand that there really is this thing called climate change. There really is this thing called environmental catastrophe, that it's not made up. And he did that to demonstrate it. And it's interesting because despite the overwhelming evidence of climate change, overwhelming scientific evidence, you still have people that insist that it's not happening. I was talking a couple of weeks ago to someone from Alaska, and we got into the issue of climate change sort of by accident. And this guy says, well, you know, the last 2 winters we've had in Alaska have been really brutal. Now, his point was that because of a brutally cold winter, there couldn't be climate change. And it's like, no, danger, Will Robinson, right? This is not what climate change is not the simultaneous raising of the temperature of the earth everywhere and it all becoming the Sahara. It is what they call climate change. And they talk about various kinds of tendencies. And what we know when we look at tendencies of anything is that there's going to be variations that take place. But what you look at is, what is the tendency? I was in South Carolina a couple of months ago. And I was in a cab, and the South Carolina cab driver was talking to me about the weather in South Carolina, and it had been very, very peculiar. And being the provocateur that I am, I said, well, it's climate change. And he got silent. And then he said, well, we need to wait a couple more summers and see what happens. No! It's not wait a couple of more summers. We have to do something right now. The evidence is in. But the question is, why are people in denial? See, I understand people like Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann. I understand them. I understand them because of their ideological orientation. Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann understand that taking on climate change means that the economy must change. They understand that, which is why they will go to their graves denying that there's climate change. I understand that. But this cab driver has no vested interest in that. So what is it that would lead him into that level of denial? What leads so many people that we talk to, good people, into believing, no, it's not happening? And it suddenly occurred to me that really what's happening is this. The stakes are so high, the scale that we're dealing with is so dramatic, that individuals feel like they have absolutely no control over the outcome of events. And when that happens, it is much easier to deny it's happening. I mean, if you can't control it, it's much easier to just simply say, it's not happening, it can't be happening. It's much easier to focus on things over which you can have control, at least in people's mind. So when it comes to climate change, for many people, it is so overwhelming that it just, let's deny that it's happening. Because the moment that we actually accept that climate change is happening, we are compelled to do something. And everyone knows that. Everyone knows the moment that you understand climate change is happening, there's something you've got to do. Pressing government, whatever, there's something you have to do. Well, we in organized labor have been undergoing climate change for about 50 years. And while it's been happening, many of our leaders have denied it's been happening, and many of our members. We had a high point of membership between roughly 1945 and 1955 of 35% of the non-agricultural workforce were in unions. And since 1955, there's been this slow decline in the percentage that we've represented that then became a dramatic decline after the Volcker recession of 1980 to 82 and Reagan's firing of the PATCO workers. And it's gotten to the point where, as was just mentioned by Jim, that we face a situation of annihilation, not simply a weakening, but annihilation. We face a situation that in our lifetimes is absolutely unprecedented, where our decline could get to the point where we are the incredible shrinking movement. Anyone that ever saw the great science fiction movie, The Incredible Shrinking Man, I want to remind you of the last scene. See, in the end of the movie, this man is shrinking. Obviously, you get that from the title. So this guy is shrinking, and in the end, he doesn't die. He just keeps shrinking. And he realized that's his fate, to continue to shrink forever. We face that kind of prospect. Our leaders have seen this coming, and they've been in denial. At each point, when something could and should have been done, they've said to us at different junctures, it's not that bad. It's like the story of the man that jumped off the Empire State Building. And he's falling past the 40th floor and is overheard saying, so far so good. That's our movement. That's our movement. We keep declining. We keep getting our rear ends kicked, and people say, so far so good. It could be worse. Well, it certainly can be worse. When we hit the ground, it's going to be a hell of a lot worse. Right? But the problem is, we've seen this tendency, and this denial has completely paralyzed so many people who have thought, in essence, that maybe they themselves have time to get out before the lights go out and the door is shut. But now, my friends, we face the moment of truth, where the other side has declared that the time has arrived for the final offensive. Many of us have been waiting for this moment, not hoping for it, but anticipating this moment for many years. It's the point when the other side has decided that we are so vulnerable that we can get taken out. And they have, as we've seen, started moving campaigns from one side of the country to the other. States that were at one point thought to be impervious to right-to-work laws now facing them, or have lost to them. It's a final offensive by a corporate America and their Tea Party Republican allies, who have become incredibly consolidated. And this is one of the things that I get frustrated with within my own union. I'm in the American Federation of Government Employees, and we have a significant number of Republican members. And there's this kind of contradiction in their heads, because they're workers, many of them are union activists, and yet the Republican Party is kicking their rear end, and they don't know what to do about it. And what I keep reminding them is that the Republican Party of today is not the Republican Party of 1970s. I mean, it's really interesting when you look at the history. Once upon a time, there was a Republican Party that tolerated, if not had in significant positions, people like Nelson Rockefeller, who had ties with unions, Jacob Javits. I mean, for God's sakes, even Richard Nixon. Now, the politics that's, if you want to really get scared, the politics of Richard Nixon would today be even to the left of the Democratic Party, with the exception of his massacres against the Black Panther Party. It would be to the left of the Democratic Party. There would be no place for Richard Nixon in today's Republican Party. There would absolutely be no place for a Nelson Rockefeller. We have a party that is consolidated, and part of its consolidation is aimed at taking us out. They understand that we represent, as the union movement, the last major obstacle to total success by corporate America. They understand this. And they understand that there is no peace in our time. There is no, let's come to a truce. This is a war of annihilation. They are out to eliminate us. And they are making it clear, and they couldn't make it any clearer. If you listen to Eric Cantor or Mitch McConnell or any of these other individuals, they're objective. That's what's so brilliant about it, and I respect it. They say they're going to kill us. They don't pull any punches. They don't do any of these dances. They don't talk about this bipartisanship. They're going to whack us. And we have leaders that are still not coming to grips with that. That the nature of the war against us has so fundamentally changed that the old tactics simply need to be brushed aside, and we need to entertain a very different way of thinking about our situation. Now, two things. One is, how did we get into this place? And then the question is, unless we're going to pass out the Kool-Aid, what do we do? And for those of you that don't remember the reference, I'll explain it to you later. I know everyone's too